Hello, friends. Welcome back. This is part two. I'm with Tyonna, and we're having a great conversation. Thank you for taking the time.
No problem.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
coming
here.
back. Yeah. So part one, we talked about, you're wrapping up your college degree, undergrad, psychology, communications major, ready to take the film world. Very excited using film to be a Black activist, um, going to your parents' alma mater, and just, I heard gratitude, a gratitude for understanding their sacrifice and you using that to be you staying humble within that and using that to inform your experience and the way you connect with others and pulling each other up. And I think that's what attracted you to the sorority lifestyle, which is
Yeah.
which is something you're very excited and passionate about.
Yes.
You should make some films about AKAs and the early days. And I love those kind of period pieces with the flashbacks and, because like you said, you want to raise awareness with your film. And I'm still like amazed how resilient those our ancestors were like during these times and the things they endured. And, they were tougher than I am, in so many
Yes.
ways. There was like one bathroom and they had to walk 5 miles to one bathroom and like all of these things. You're like, wow, we have it so easy now, and it really gives a good perspective.
Yes.
So towards the end of the first half, we started talking about your experience in the church and spirituality. And to me, I think that's a very important piece of the Black experience. And
Yes.
one of the things I try to do with the podcast is bring all the elements together, right? How does our
Right.
history, our culture, our modern day secular life, politics, religion, all of these things, it's not just one. You can't talk about film and the Black experience and not talk about church.
Right.
Much as it's all like. So I really try to bring it all together, which makes the podcast longer. And you really have to, if you really about that life and you're really about that work, you really have to dig deep and get into the nooks and cranny of this experience. So I'm often critical about the church and our experiences. And so that's why I always like to ask, because, you started saying that your foundation in church and went through some growing pains. So around what age was that? You said middle school?
Yeah, I will say going into middle school. So I had that community and the people I grew up with in the church. We all had each other up until closer to around like 10 years old.
So was that hard for you? Was it, you said there was some kind of infidelity with the pastor and...
Yeah, I mean, I was young, so I didn't really know much of the details. I just knew that, the church was breaking up and, pastor and his wife not together anymore, whatever. Right. So I didn't really know much, but I just knew, we had to adapt. So we started visiting another church in the meantime while they were kind of deciding what they were going to do, how they were going to, recover, what location. And I found another church community, but when I went off to college, it was kind of like I wanted to find my own, new church that I can be, connected to and, build my own, experience. And I really haven't found a church home since I've been out here, just because Prairie View is 45 minutes outside of Houston, and it's a little prairie town. A lot of people don't know it's a little prairie town, and the nearest city is Houston, like liveliness. So yeah, it's been difficult, but I do try and stay connected through my favorite pastors online. So I do get my spiritual guidance from there.
Who's your favorite pastor online?
So I really enjoy Michael Todd.
Okay.
I really enjoy him, but I also like let me make sure I say her name right. Let me see. One second. Let me see. Because I really like her as well. Sarah Jakes Roberts. Yes, Sarah Jakes Roberts. She's actually one of my favorites. Sarah Jakes Roberts. She's TD Jake's daughter, but she's known for a
Okay.
lot of her. Her book Woman Evolved. That's what I'm reading right now, and
Okay.
I really like her to have a woman's perspective. And she has gone viral many times to talk about the Eve experience, and it's basically discussing how Eve gets overlooked because once people hear about the apple, they feel like her perspective on anything or her challenges that she overcome don't matter. And so that really stood out because I never really thought about going into depth about the Eve experience. And so she goes into depth about that. But
Yeah,
yes, Sarah J. Roberts, I really like her.
it's very important because, a lot of these narratives that we walked into as Black people in the Christian faith weren't necessarily ours, right? And a lot of it was kind of put onto us. So we kind of you have to have, in my opinion, you have to have a certain critical lens of how you just apply it to yourself and how you, because it affects our whole culture, right? And
Mhm.
it's, our culture, in my opinion, is still healing from all of the trauma, and a lot of those narratives didn't go away. A lot of those narratives were a part of that trauma. So if you're going to grow past the trauma, you have to, it's like you have an abusive parent but they're still your parents. You have to figure that out. How are we going to move past that?
Mhm.
um, who do you look to? You're into movies, you're about to move to Hollywood. How do you see Black Hollywood? Like, where are you excited? What do you get most excited about?
Well, I've never even been to LA before, so I'm most excited to just see what it feels like in person. Like I've seen blogs, I've heard about it, but I really want to know what it's like to, actually be there and just see, the Hollywood stars. And that's what I look forward to most is just actually being there because I know that there's a film community and presence in Atlanta, and I've had some of that experience in Atlanta, but LA, I've never been. So I just look forward to most of just being there because I heard once you get there, it's just so many opportunities at your fingertips just because you can be walking around and just meet somebody famous. And
What did you use to shoot your movies?
so I use Black Magic Design cameras. It's 6K footage. It's from our student, it's from our student packages. So we're able to rent out equipment and make movies from there.
If you had to, did you do the editing yourself?
No, I actually had an editor. My professor did my first one, Affliction Between Us, and he recently just won an award and a contract with, I forgot the production company, but he got a major production deal. And he did my editing and he taught my digital production class. And so we learned techniques. I do my own editing for my YouTube channel, but when it comes to cinematic edits, that's very different. And to put out, top tier work, you want a top tier editor on your stuff because your editings can make or break your film. It can
Absolutely.
have the best actors in the world, but if it's not edited properly for audience engagement and stuff like that, it's not gonna work.
Who's your favorite Black comedian?
Um, Growing up, it used to be um Cat Williams. It used to be growing up, and but yeah, I like all those from like Def Comedy Jam. I have an old soul, so I've always gone back. My parents laughed because they watched them live when they were in college in their dorms, but I go back and watch them like Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, all those like
Yeah, the
old
real
school.
kings of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like they, like to be honest, I feel like the world is a lot more sensitive now because back then it was like nothing was off limits. Like The world is a lot more sensitive today. So I enjoy watching those jokes from back then, you know.
What did you think about the Chris Rock, Will Smith situation?
So my perspective on it was that I had a lot of perspectives because I watched a lot of the recaps from the Oscars and just discussing about the background and the mentality that he had of why he did it. But I don't believe it justifies the actions because, to be completely honest, I think that he had too much on the line for him to risk, and he's reaping those repercussions. Because I think at the end of the day, you can't control other people, and words are words, no matter how much they may hurt other people. You have to know that you have too much of a legacy that you've worked for to jeopardize your brand, to step out of character and do that. And to be honest, it doesn't matter how many times you apologize, it's something to that magnitude people are never going to forget, and it's embarrassment on both ends. And it's like, the reasoning behind it, he did it, is understandable, but it's not justifiable, because at the end of the day, people say worse things about her or about people in general on the media. Like, if you retaliate like that all the time, it's a constant battle, you're never going to win. So that's my perspective on it. And I was just very surprised because he knows the type of legacy he has. He knows what type of actor, how hard he's worked in life. Like, and it's just was shocking that he would, in a split second, even jeopardize that. No matter, the love of his wife that he had, I just think that there's always, you have to think of the bigger picture.
They've really put like too much of themselves out there, I think.
I definitely think that a lot of people in celebrities don't believe in discretion anymore in a lot of things, because a lot of the stuff that they talk about in their marriage to the media is none of our business. And that's why there's so much judgment, because they've opened up that type of community for people to have an opinion. And at the end of the day, when you're that open about every aspect of your life, it shouldn't be a surprise when people comment on it. And people were confused as well, because Jada, she laughs on the media all the time about her, shaving her head and stuff like that. So people were confused when, she laughs about it. And then when someone makes a joke about it, that all of a sudden it's off limits. So there was a lot of confusion as well with that.
What was the deal with this August? Did you follow that at all?
Say it again. The connection had broken. I'm saying the whole sentence had broke up. I didn't hear what you said. You said, was I following what?
What do you think about like the whole thing with August?
I definitely think that it was an inappropriate relationship built, because I think she took a very vulnerable circumstance, situation in person. And I say take advantage because there's a huge gap in age. If you don't know, he was introduced to her as her son's friend. Right. So that's red flag number one, because it should have never gotten to an intimate relationship, because at some point it should have been in her mind that is a line you should never cross. And so I think it was a setup for failure from the beginning. And I definitely think it was disrespectful to openly discuss it in front of your husband to the world, because it's, in a sense, it's embarrassing. It is. And I think a lot of things that she doesn't consider his feelings. And I, in my opinion, of course, I don't know her personally, but from what I see, she's very selfish, and Will is very selfless. So I applaud him for putting up with her for this long, because the man is tired. He's tired. Like, and he just tries his best to be the best husband he can be. And it seems like nothing he does is ever good enough for her, because after she laughed, after he slapped Chris Rock for her, she went on social media saying she would have never told him to do that. And she was saying, yeah. And it's just like, what did you marry? Like, then she goes on the media and says she wished she never got married and she never wanted him. And it's like, at some point, no matter how much you want your marriage to work or how tied y'all are financially, you have to think, is this healthy? Because he's across the country now having to escape the US because people won't let it go. Yeah. Like, he's so-called escape the US, and I don't know if it's in Thailand, I forgot where they said he was, but he's getting some therapeutic help over there. And they're treating the man like he's a psychopath or has some kind of medical diagnosis, but he's just human, honestly. And it's like people are treating him like something's wrong with him. And it's mainly coming from the marriage that he's in and the spouse of his that he got.
I think so. I think Jada had a lot to do with that snap. And it was a really big snap.
It was. And he reached a breaking point, because what I also learned from people, from, you know, bloggers that were reporting on it too, is that he wrote a book. I hadn't read it, but apparently he wrote a book and he explained how he got tired. He gets tired of being always the butt of the joke, or always feel like people can take advantage of him or walk all over him. And that, what I heard a YouTuber say, and it definitely spoke volumes, is that that slap was just not, it wasn't just for Chris Rock. It was for all the other people that have ever made him feel like he was less than a man. And all that in that slap came from that. And that was just,
he's top 5 in Black Hollywood, you know, like he's not looked down on in any way. Like we have to
well respected. Which one?
Will.
Yeah, well respected and everything, but it also goes to show at the end of the day what we discussed earlier, being a Black man in America, because there's discussion about taking away his Oscar, but what's his name, Weinstein and all that, you know, and they have multiple Oscars. This was his first. So it just goes to show again, at the end of the day, there's still that systematic racism, and they're gonna really put their foot down because he's a Black man at the end of the day. So
at this point, there's no, you can physically take the statue away, but everyone knows he has it. Like it's not gonna make a difference to give or take.
Right.
For 10 years though, he can't show his face at the Oscars.
Right.
So even if he does, even when we do forget about this, like let's say 4 years from now, let's say he has an amazing movie, he can't get an Oscar for it, or he can't even get an Oscar, like a nomination for it. So that means every studio for the next 10 years is going to think twice, because
about casting him.
It's going to stagnate their movie, have Will Smith. But at the same time,
even now they're doing that because they've already stuff that he had been working on, they're backing out because it's too much of a liability now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very unfortunate.
He's definitely lost a lot, and you know, it's one of those things, you know. But for me, that moment, like Will Smith is one of those people, like he has a lot of inspirational quotes. He has that hard work ethic. Like to me, he's kind of like a Kobe. Like Kobe's one of those people.
Get out my head. I was just thinking he was like the Kobe of Hollywood.
Absolutely, you know, like, and that's just his one tarnish there that's like pretty big. And the thing is, do you think he would have did it if it was a white man who made the same exact joke?
That's what a lot of people were saying. And to be completely honest, I don't believe so, because what I also learned in research is that Chris Rock has made a lot of jabs at Jada. And and so Chris and Jada have that kind of animosity between each other. So it was specifically the person. It wasn't really about the joke, because people have said a lot worse.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, Chris Rock, this is gonna help his career. I think so. Because the next Chris Rock special, like he's gonna be able to charge 4 times as much. You know, if he was gonna get 10 million, he can now get 40 or 50 for his next special, and we're all gonna watch it because he's gonna have a lot to say. And because
we want to see him recover from this, because that was very humiliating. But he kept his composure, so I'll forever respect him for that, because it could have been a huge brawl on live TV of 2 Black men fighting. Because a lot of people would have took it there as well and would have just said all bets were off.
Nah, the best thing he could have did was to just let it roll, because you know, even if, let's say Chris Rock was a great fighter and he, like, you know, give Will Smith a 2-piece right there on, it would have looked bad at the Oscars, you know. So the slap, you just responded that way. He walked away. You kept the show going. Like, you know, you're gonna have to hear from him again.
And people were disappointed because all the other Oscar winners who have beautiful speeches, nobody knows, because it's so overshadowed by those 30 seconds.
Samuel got his first Oscar. Yeah, that was
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson got his first Oscar that the same night after that. So you're right.
Mhm.
It did get overshadowed in a big way. Absolutely. Have you been paying attention to the Black Lives Matter accusations about the way they've been spending that money?
Misappropriate funds, misappropriating funds. I have heard, and I'll let you ask me what you're gonna ask me.
I want to know if you've heard about it and what do you think?
So I've heard about it and I haven't done much research about it, but it would be very unfortunate if they were creating their own salaries for luxurious lifestyle and not putting the funds towards the cause that people are donating to. But I also wouldn't just point the finger just yet, because even with nonprofits, to keep it running, that people have a salary. So it all depends on, if they have the, account, the numbers to show like this is just the salary that they give. Because if they're putting forth, all this work, being on the front line, all that, shoot, attorneys that represent these, high profile cases, their salaries are up there. So if they're representing them on the social media, if they have the numbers to back up, this salary that they're giving themselves because this is the work that they're doing, then I'm all for it. But if they're specifically using funds that have been donated and creating a salary, then that's different. Because that's kind of like, there's a lot you can do with the Black Lives Matter money, as far as especially contributing to this mass incarceration rate, other things, helping people, get out, like what the money's for. But if it's just going towards, them as a brand, then okay, they can have their salary. But if these are specific donations for this cause, that's very unfortunate. And it also, I feel, I wouldn't say tarnishes, but gives the brand less credibility when you do stuff like that.
Definitely tarnishes for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I think you know how it is. Anytime Black people try to speak up and try to speak up for themselves, there's always going to be someone who's going to point at something and say, "Oh, but did you know this? Did you know that?" And
Mhm.
instead of, it's like the riots, you shoot three people, there's a riot. Instead of saying, "Oh man, we need to stop shooting people," it's "Why are they rioting?" kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, okay, maybe they misspent some money. All right, we have a lot of trauma. You give us this money, they're not that well organized. They took a vacation, they whatever. They need to get some PR, clean it up.
Mhm.
Account managers get back on track because we know the work is real.
Right.
They didn't make up Black
And
Lives.
it could be stressful. We don't know what they go through.
Exactly. So, Black Lives Matter is a very important part of the work that's happening right now. And hopefully they'll get some good leadership who can help them kind of, work through that and kind of fix it. Because it would be a shame to have that brand get lost in the shuffle.
Yes.
How was the pandemic for you? Were you taking classes online? Was
The pandemic was horrible. I had COVID. I was scared. My friend's father had just died of COVID. So I was scared because I didn't know how I was gonna,
bad it was
how
going to
I was
go?
gonna recover. It was really terrible, honestly. In the beginning, I will say it was terrible because I found my niche during the pandemic. But in the beginning, it was terrible because I was my YouTube channel. I was out doing things. And when everything shut down, I didn't know how to recover because I'm always out, I'm always doing things. And when I had to be stuck in the house as the only child, I had no people to talk to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I talking on the phone only went so far. Like, and then when I had quarantine, they normally said 14 days and you recover. It took me like 28 days. I was stuck. And my mom has lupus, so I couldn't interact with her in person. And we couldn't, and being in the same house, we couldn't take any chances before my, recovery to come in contact with them. So it was bad. But in December 2020, that's when I actually had produced my first short film that's award winning now. So I say, everything happens for a reason. And the pandemic didn't stop me. So I hated it in the beginning, but it became a blessing towards the end of the first year because we're still in it. But
yeah, I mean, I'm in New Jersey, and I feel like it's pretty much over. Everyone's kind of over it. Like no
Right.
one, you still see, I probably see 1 or 2% of people wearing a mask still, but that's never gonna go away. But I think the rest of us are kind of like over it, handshaking.
Yeah, especially if you've gotten vaccinated and stuff. And it's kind of like, people have gotten to the place where life's going to keep going. So it's like, if you want to be in the house all day, then, kudos to you. But it's like, now that we can be outside, people want to be able to, still have a life, because even in the pandemic, were still working. Even if you couldn't have a life outside of that, you still had to work and the stress was still there. So if they want to be outside now, I'd say more power to them, because it's stressful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you do? What's your hobbies? What are you into?
I really enjoy being outdoors. I'm very adventurous. So I'm always, down for a good picnic, paddle boating, swimming, hiking. I do all that. Like, I love being outdoors. That's why I vlog so much, because I love being outdoors, doing things for the first time. So that's my kind of therapy.
Outdoors. Yeah, I mean, I got a very good therapist vibe from you. Like, I think you'd be a good therapist listener.
People always say that. They say I'm just so well spoken. I just make everything sound good. And I was like, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need more therapists. I've had some therapists on the show, and I've continued to, talk to them. And mental health is one of those things. In the old days, like we were saying, we took this abuse, but because we had such a strong community, we were able to like interlock and stay strong. Now
That resilience factor.
the resilience factor, exactly. And I think now people are more susceptible, whether it's online or microaggressions or whatever. Like, we're really falling apart, and we need to, I don't know, to me it's a very different time, but we need therapists now.
We do. We needed therapists all along, because even just when we studied African American psychology and why we have such, hereditary mental illnesses, is because we never got the help from when we were ripped apart from our families, our Black women giving birth to these children that the master impregnated us with, or just children in general, and out of, retaliation, or us delivering children and them sending them off, and you never seeing them again. Like, just the traumas recovering from all these things that we went through, and just having to say, get over it and continue life. And that rolled over, I think, and that's still evident in some ways today, because it got to the point where it's life, get over it, keep it pushing. But that's not healthy. It's not healthy. And it's still evident today that subconsciously some of our community still thinks, when life gets hard, well, it is what it is, keep it pushing. But it's like, talk about it. It's okay to say you're not okay and you just need a break. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. A mother giving birth to 3 kids and not knowing where they are, the husband got sold, and like, we lived with generations upon generations of trauma. And you were forced to kind of keep going. There wasn't like you can't break down. There's no disability, there's no nothing. So you just had to keep going. And I think that made you more numb. So our generation's more intact with their identity, their spirituality. So now we're more facing it. And that's why we're breaking down more. We are trying to unpack it and deal with it in a way that we weren't before.
Yeah, but also needing a safe space, because with our generation of unpacking these things, and there's also the battle of the people that are raising us, that were raised by people that didn't have vulnerable parents. So now these children want a vulnerable parent, but this parent is struggling because they don't know how to do it, because they had never seen it before. So it just takes it takes a village, truly. Like, I never just say one person in the family needs therapy. I say, if one person's doing it, they all should do it, because you're stronger together. So if you all are at least raising the topic of what potentially can be a problem or a disconnect between the intermediate family, that can do wonders in all other aspects of life, because your core immediate family really shapes how your relationships look with other people.
Yes, and this generational trauma is affecting everyone, and even the ones who who can't even articulate it, it's affecting them too. So you're lucky if you're able to be in touch with it enough to realize you need it and go get it.
Right.
Our a lot of what I talk about, is how do we heal? If what does healing look like? Where are we going? How do we get there? And a lot of people that I tend to talk to just on and off the podcast, there's more of a sense of um, there's not much you can do. The system's kind of locked everything down in place. And the goal is just to make, maybe a small little change, maybe with my family here and there. And no big changes are really going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that?
I always say anything is possible, and with the mentality that it don't work, it's not going to work. So I always say you just have to have a positive perspective, and any small victory is still a victory. So any step towards progress, I always say it's never too late for change, and anything is possible. So
what kind of change do you want to see?
As far as
in the world, in America?
I want to see more women come together and be an example for other women in the media, that loving yourself first is most important, because I think it's promoted too much about physical appearance. I feel like that's too much in the media, especially for women, because it's an expectation to have all these features that you can only surgically get done. And it's like all these women are striving to get this, but at the end of the day, you get this and then you're still not happy, because all these men that are coming your way are only physically attracted to you. But it's like, it's because you didn't work on the inside first. So you have this beautiful body that, looks good on the outside, but what does the heart look like, And it's like, that's what's everlasting. Like, I want that to be an example instead of the promotion of surgeries, because at the end of the day, it's health risking, like going under the knife at any time, whether it's for, positive health risks or cosmetic surgery, it's still risky whenever, you're cutting the body. So it's like, I just want more people, especially in the Black community, for women to understand that you can be successful without having to have sex appeal. You know what I mean? Because what I learned when I joined my organization is that a lot of our founders, a lot of the basis and principles of our sorority was, we were in a time in the early 1900s where Black women were being overly sexualized. They are still today, but we're being overly sexualized. And we wanted to highlight Black women in a positive educational aspect, because they tried to treat us like we were dumb or like we weren't good for anything, but we are intelligent, if not more than enough, right? And so we weren't allowed to not only join their sororities, white sororities, but we also were not allowed in their scholarship achievement magazines, like for Harvard and these other big schools that we attended, and we had academic excellence. They wouldn't feature us with the rest of the students because it didn't fit their target audience. So no matter how well we did, we didn't get recognized with, our colleagues, right? So that's why we created the Ivy Leaf, which is our sororities magazine, and we highlight the women in our organization doing community service, having academic excellence, and highlighting us in this intelligent light, because we're overly sexualized. And I really want the change that I want to see for Black women is to promote substance rather than physical, because if you exercise your mind, that will take you way further than looks will ever get you. Like, I feel like the world is so stuck in this generation, especially, over looks and where, and what you can offer for the eye. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be taken serious if people are just attracted to you.
Mhm.
from the eye. Like they're not going to take you serious because they don't know what you have to offer other than looks. And I want a new standard to be set because there's other ways to be successful. Not everybody has the resources to go to college. Not everybody can. So that doesn't mean you can't be successful, but you also can have the power to exercise your brain regardless of your circumstance. You can read a book and you can get knowledge other places. So I just want to see more people just being in a positive light and understanding that, you know, you don't have to be sexualized to be successful. So
It's one of those things, right? So how do you balance that? You know, you're going for the job interview. Do you wear makeup? Do you not wear makeup? Should you wear your natural hair? Like,
so don't get me wrong, you know, looks do get people a lot further in life. Okay. I understand pretty privilege is a thing. I'm very aware of it. But I always just look at it as put your best self forward. And when I say that, I mean, as in whatever package God has given you, put your best foot forward because it doesn't matter, because to each its own, no matter, you know, what one person thinks is attractive, someone else is not going to think it's attractive. So there's no rule book on attraction, but I'm a firm believer in, you know, look good, feel good. So if you put in your best effort and your best self, it's going to show. So in a job, no matter if they're, you know, attracted to you on the eye or whatever, they're going to be attracted to what you have to say because you look like they can trust what's coming out your mouth. That's what it is. So that's just how I balance that. I always put my best self forward, but I also dress how I want to be addressed in all aspects. And I told that with people all the time. Dress how you want to be addressed. And when you have that mindset, when you're putting your clothes on, understand what you're going to attract. Because I believe when you put your clothes on, people know what they're doing. Like if they want to look sexier, it's mindset. They know what they're doing before they step out the house. If they want to slit in their dress, I'm not against it, but just know what you dress how you want to be addressed. So if you have that slit and you want, you know, more cleavage showing, that's fine because that's what you want to do. But it's like just always be conscious of the decisions you make and you know what comes with it. So that's just my perspective on it.
it's one of those things. I think women lead the world, and that's one of those things because of this narrative that, you know, men are the leaders and women should stay back. Like that's one of those old traditions that's still affecting us. And as a woman steps forward to be the leaders of tomorrow, they have to deal with, you know, chauvinistic men who are trying to, you know, threaten them just based on the fact that they're a woman. She's
No,
smart.
I deal with that all the time. I will say because I've never had a full relationship my whole college life, and people always ask me why, and I'm like, well, because most of the men I meet, they say they're not ready for me. And I think they just get in, and like some of them have admitted that I come off intimidating. And it used to hurt my feelings, but it's kind of like, you know, I'll take that rather than someone thinking that I'm just easy to access, you know, because I'd rather have, you know, be single and be a woman of substance than to be just someone that has somebody just say I have someone and I'm not benefiting or growing at any point. And so I definitely believe that some men are having to step up to a higher standard plate, and some men don't like it. They want convenience, they want something easier, and they're like, well, if I can already lead her because she don't know much, I'm gonna go over here because she know more than me. So I'm not gonna go nowhere where she can teach me. I'm gonna be teaching somebody else something and with the bare minimum. So yeah, I definitely believe women are the leaders of tomorrow. And I think it's okay. But I also think that I also personally know that in my household, I want my man to lead because I don't want to be so independent that I feel like I don't need a man for anything because I want my children to have a father, an active father. So I'm never going to say women don't need men for anything because that's not true. And what I believe, you know, of course, with my spiritual background, you know, we were meant to have companionship. And so we weren't meant to go through things through life by ourselves. So I still have faith that it'll come. But I definitely will say a lot of men, for the women out there today, that's, you know, vice presidents of the United States and stuff like that, you know, they have to step up to a new standard.
Are you comfortable with interracial dating?
I always look at it as I don't discriminate because of course, what meets the eye is always, the first thing of attraction, but it goes deeper than that. And I'm not anti it. So I actually recently was seeing someone that was a different race, and the race specifically was he was from Greece, so he's actually a white man, but specifically he's from Greece, so that side of Europe. But um yeah, it was working until it wasn't. And when I say it wasn't, as in I started getting deep about cultural backgrounds and bases, and it was just I didn't feel connected. And I was thinking I envision my husband being a man that can lead my household, and I want my husband to lead my household understanding the struggles that Black men and women have. And that's just the truth of the matter. Because prime example, when he came to visit me at Prairie View, I told you we're in a prairie area, right? And it's 45 minutes outside the city. And he was upset. He was like, why is it so far? And why did they build the college this far out? Who would ever think to build a school out here? And it's like, well, Mr. Man, like we just didn't have the options to just go picking and choosing what land we could build our school on, where we can get an education. If it was that easy, we wouldn't be historically Black founded, right? So it's just things like that, little triggers. It's like those comments, I just could never see myself being with someone like that, because it's just that subconscious entitlement I told you that some of them have. That's a prime example. Like, it was so inconvenient for him to drive down here that he takes it to the level of, why would they build a school here? It's like, what do you mean? Like, I've never heard that a day in my life.
Yeah, I agree. Schools are usually out of the city, like a ways away. That's normal.
Right.
Absolutely. Um, I'm very passionate about how we're gonna find healing, and I felt like a lot of a lot of what you touched on very lightly was this idea of self-value,
Yes.
self-pride. And you know there's certain culture, like right now, Instagram, there's a lot of like people in their underwear dancing, and like our time is shifted. It's things are changing a lot. And when you're a person of high value standards, if there's a million people over there who's doing one night stands and all this crazy stuff, like, you know, most the average guy is not ready for something serious, something of depth and substance, and they're not programmed that way, right? If you on Instagram and you're on TV, you're not programmed to go and read substance books and sit down and have conversations and build a relationship over 6 months, 2 years, getting to know a future. And like, the average person is not thinking like that.
Right.
And a good person who's younger, it really puts them in a more isolated position, because
Definitely.
you feel like an outsider when everyone's like getting drunk and getting naked, and you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
It's
Our ancestors our founders would be clutching their pearls if they knew what was going on in the world today.
seriously, a lot of this has to do with like, there's a stripping away of culture, and certain things they did, we didn't do. And now we're so integrated, we want to go get naked too. Like, if that's what everyone's doing. So all of these things, this is one of those questions where integration, was integration the best thing? So these kinds of questions we're still navigating, and this is not that long ago, right? We're talking 60 years ago. We were begging for integration. Now we have it, and it's still not so easy.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of your films and seeing what you do creatively. And
Yeah.
Tyler Perry, he's one of my I look to him a lot. And what I like about Tyler Perry was he didn't wait for opportunities.
He
He
created
created, yeah.
really did.
And as much as you do work with and you collaborate with whoever, you got to keep that pen going and
Yeah.
keep creating.
You're gonna inspire me to continue working on what I have a script that I've been meaning to get started. I have the synopsis and everything, but you're gonna motivate me to get my pen to my paper tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality is that's the only way. Like, if you look at it's Spike Lee, there's a few others, but Spike Lee and Tyler Perry, they went out there and they just had they carved their own way. These studios are not looking for black filmmakers. They're not like, oh yes, we want a black filmmaker to come and take over. Like it's clear, Hollywood is very whitewashed, and they'll take your script and put some white people in there, and you're like, wait, this is a black movie. Why is the best friend white now? And you have to deal with, Dave Chappelle talked about it. Like all of these things are happening, and you're walking into it, and I'm sure you're expecting that.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the only way is to go like an independent route, and you use them when you can, and do it when you can.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Would you like to close with anything? Is there anything else?
Not other than check out both of my short films on my YouTube channel. You'll fall in love with them and it'll leave you wanting more. I can promise you that. So you definitely have to message me about what do you think of them after.
By the weekend, for sure. If I can, I'll share them. How long are they?
It's my Affliction Between Us is 5 minutes, and To Serve and Protect You is 10 minutes.
Yeah, I might watch those tonight. I would have been watching.
You're gonna want to look. Yeah, it's super short. I'm telling you, you're gonna wish it kept going.
Yeah,
have you on the edge of your seat. I'll say that.
Keep going, keep creating, and I look forward to you. And keep in contact. And the next thing that I'm really working on now is doing more panels and trying to bring some of the elements together. I think the younger generation needs to get into this mindset earlier, and we have to collaborate more. That's really at the heart of why I do what I do, is to promote collaboration, highlight people who's doing stuff. You get to talk about it. I'm definitely going to repost it. And I would upload the short films to Instagram, both of them.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that now, that I need to go ahead and repost the trailers so that people can actually go back and look, because I've gotten a lot of new followers in a new community. So they definitely know I'm a filmmaker, but they don't.
Are you trying to get them to your YouTube versus?
Oh yeah, I've gotten a lot of publicity for my films. A lot of people have seen it, but I definitely I'm gonna re-promote it and put it back up there for the other people that don't know. Because yeah, it's in my bio on Instagram and everything. And I just learned how to insert a link on my Instagram story. So that'll help a lot. Because people like convenience. So if they can just easily click it.
But I'm saying, like, are you comfortable putting the whole short film on Instagram, or you don't think
well, it's a time constraint. It would never let me. It's too long. So that's the only reason.
Now.
You can now?
Yeah, a 5-minute video can go on Instagram, and the 10-minute one too.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'll definitely look into that. And for sure, yeah, I'd be open to it.
Yeah, I'm going to share both of these on IG, and I'll tag you as a contributor. And, a lot of people are like, my audience is still growing. And for me, it's more about the people and putting the effort, and little by little, that's how you build something big.
Start doing research on and teach yourself SEO, that's search engine optimization. That's how you build a community. I started off and taught myself that, and I have over like 120,000 views cumulative on my channel because I taught myself that. Okay. Easy tactic. You'll see a difference soon.
Listen, there's so much to this. Like, the internet is the future, and that's why I'm like, I have to do something now and just keep pushing, because in the future, that's all it's going to be. I don't even watch my TV. It just sits there most of the time. And now if
I still read. People are surprised, but I still read. Like, I really watch TV. If I do, it's like for a specific show, I'm caught on like a series. I'm a series watcher. I don't watch cable. Commercials irritate me. I don't like to be interrupted when I'm in my zone. So.
Hello. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you.
No
Um,
problem.
Want
Thank
us
you
to
for
find
having
you
me.
on YouTube?
Yes, Tyonna Alexis TV. So Tyonna Alexis Alexis TV, and it has all my work and all my college vlogs and everything on there.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. I'm gonna check it out. We'll be checking that out. Thank you so much, Swana. I appreciate you. And
Thank you.
thank you for coming out this late night.
No problem. Thanks again. You have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.